Hey everybody, this is my 40-gallon Black Ghost knife fish tank, and today we're going to be changing the lighting over. Right now it is lit with T5 high output fluorescence, and we're going to be putting an LED light on it. So if you follow along with my videos, you'll know that I've been switching the lighting out on my Purple Spotted Gudgeon Tank, which is also a 40 breeder. And the issue I run into with these 40 breeders is their size. They're 36 inches wide, and that makes it sort of an odd size to find lighting to put on the tank. Now, let me clarify immediately by saying that I'm talking about repurposing low-budget lighting to put on these tanks. The fixtures I have on here are designed for an aquarium, and therefore they make it in the appropriate size. But I'm operating on a very low budget here, and in order to find other types of lighting that will fit on a 36-inch tank, it's a little bit tough. My 4-foot tanks have just standard shop lights on them. They're fairly common, they're very inexpensive, and you can get good high-quality LED shop lights nowadays for a low budget. These 36-inch wide tanks, however, are a different story, and I've been struggling to find adequate lighting. My gudgeon tank, it was a very low light tank, and so when I put the tubes on that tank, it actually increased the lighting considerably. And what I did on that tank was I put two retrofit T8 tubes that are effectively LED tubes that are shaped like a T8, and you just put it in an existing fixture and you're good to go. You've got LED lighting instead of your T8 fluorescence. And when I did that, I wound up having a lot more light in the tank than I thought. So I want to do a little comparison right here, just right off the bat. I want to show you the difference between this tank and the tank I'm talking about, because the lighting is going to appear very similar despite a huge discrepancy in energy consumption. This tank, as I said, has 4 high output T5 tubes on it that are 39 watts each. So if I've done my math correctly, that should be 156 watts of electricity lighting this tank, while we have 10 watts of electricity, 20 watts of electricity lighting this tank. This tank has two 10-watt LED retrofit tubes on it. Now, you can probably tell the inside or the middle of the tank is lit much more so than the edges, and that is because it is a 2-foot tube sitting on top of a 3-foot tank, which, again, my issue that I was having before is trying to find fixtures that actually fit these tanks. So, for 20 watts of electricity, I would say this tank is very, very well lit. So again, this is 20 watts. This is 156 watts. So this tank is clearly more thoroughly lit, and it's more well lit. It's got a higher quality light in it and everything else. I'm not trying to say these compare 1 to 1. I am saying that that was 20 watts. This is 156 watts. If you put your hand on the fixtures, you can feel they're almost too hot to touch. I know a lot of people give me grief for putting cloth over top of my fixtures, and if there was ever a fixture I would have to worry about putting cloth over, it would be these. They get very hot. I used to have 4-foot fixtures on my larger tanks that were the same high output fixtures, but I would only keep the single fixture, not 2 of them. And so the wattage was lower, the heat output was lower, and so on and so forth. So these tanks get pretty hot just from the lights that are sitting on top of them. And of course, all of that heat is just energy losses. It's just wasted electricity. So while I've been out looking around trying to find adequate lighting for my gudgeon tank that we were just looking at a moment ago, I came across some unusual lights at the Home Depot. They are sold as shop lights, but they're only 3 feet wide. We'll get to looking at them in a minute. I'll get the overhead lights turned on and everything, and we can see what they look like after we do the before and after, because it's going to make a stunning difference. I have not actually seen what they look like on this tank yet, But I have lit the fixtures up, and they look beautiful. I love the way these fixtures look. Now, the difference is going to be noticeable between this tank and the Purple Spotted Gudgeon Tank when I'm done. They're both going to be lit by low budget LEDs, but the difference is these are shop lights that I'm putting on this tank. So while each of those tubes on the other tank were 10 watts apiece, these shop lights are going to be 30 watts apiece. Again, they're not meant to be little under cabinet lighting or decorative lighting. These are shop lights. So they're meant to put out a lot of light to light up a work area. I've just never seen a 3-foot shop light with a single tube in it before. They're flat, they're very low profile, and they sit right on top of these 3-foot tanks like they were made for them. I'm really, really excited to see what these are going to look like on the tank. Now, this tank is not a low light tank like the one we were just looking at, which is why I didn't want to do the same thing on this tank that I did on that one. I don't think that would be enough light to put in here. You know, going from 156 watts down to 20, I don't care how efficient those LEDs are. That's just a lot less light going into this tank, and I've got a lot of vegetation in here soaking all that light up. So I do need a lot of light in this tank. And those little fixtures were just not going to cut it. These shop lights, however, I really think are going to cut it. So we're going to do a before and after. I'll get it all set up. But before I set it up, I'll shoot some video. And then later we'll splice that in and we'll get to have a look at what these fixtures actually look like. But right now, let's go ahead and do your before and after. So there's your before. And there's your after. So you can see there's very little fish activity at the moment. They're all kind of freaked out from all the banging and rattling around on top of the tank and getting the fixtures sorted out. But that is quite a difference in the amount of light that's in the tank. I would say that is a lot more than was in there before. It's really bright. So now that we've had a before and after look, we'll go ahead and talk about the lights, have a little bit of a look at the fixtures themselves for a moment, and then we'll get back here and we'll discuss whether or not I like this and whether or not that's too much light or what have you. So here's a look at what the fixtures actually look like before they went on the tank. Alright, so here's a look at the actual fixture that's going on the tank. I'm going to put 2 of these on, and they are 30 watts each, but you can see they're nice and flat, and unlike under cabinet lighting that generally has a rounded front on it, these are flat, and the tube itself, which is a faux tube, it's just a diffuser tube. There's actually a strip of LEDs underneath of that, but you can see how it is level with the flat plane here. So it sets right on top of the tank without any issue at all. I'm just going to go ahead and hang the cord down over the side there, and we're actually going to set it right on top of the other fixture rather than the tank itself. But you get the idea. It just sits perfectly flat. Now, the only thing I don't like about this is this gap right here. A lot of light bleeds out of that gap. So what I'm going to have to do once I put it on the tank is, of course, we're going to cover it with the cloth, and then if I get a lot of bleed out from that light, we can always do something like put some foil over it, or I can put some, you know, some tape, or I don't know. There's options I've got to just sort of block off that little bar. So, really nice little fixture. I probably should have mentioned at some point already that they are $14.97. That was the stunning part for me, because you can buy 3-foot fixtures, and you can get high bay lighting, and there's all kind of fixtures out there you can buy to go in your tanks if you've got an unlimited budget. But if that were the case, I wouldn't be buying shop lights for my fish tank. I'd be spending big money on fish tank lights. So for $15, I'm getting 30 watts of lighting, so I'm really happy about that. I'll just give you a look at the box. It's nothing special. I have no idea who makes these chips. Commercial Electric apparently is who makes the unit or the fixture itself. Who they purchase their chips from, I have no idea. I've not been able to find out anything about them, but it's really bright and it puts out a nice quality light. It's supposed to be 4000K, so we'll see how that looks in just a minute, although at this point of the video you've probably already seen how it looks, so we'll go ahead and get back to that. Alright, well, I'm a little skeptical as to whether or not that's really 4000K or not. That seems a little bit on the soft side to my eye. But that's okay. I like it. And the more I stand here and the more I enjoy it, the more I like it. It's a lot of light in the tank. It's really, really brightly lit. Much more so than it was before. The spread of the light distribution, I should say. You can tell my black ghost knifefish down there has noticed it too. He's moving around quite a bit, so it's, well, maybe me banging around and putting the fixtures on there has got him disturbed too. But there's so much more light in this tank. It's got to be affecting him. So I actually considered simply putting one fixture right in the center of the tank and then turning the other one off because it's so much light. But I don't think that will work very well because even though we get a really good spread of light with these fixtures, the tank is 18 inches deep, you know, front to back. And it's just with so much, you know, I've got these plants that are so directly, I don't know whether we can see them through the glass or not, but I have so many plants that are right in the middle of the tank that if you put the fixture right above that, it eats up all the light and casts a shadow over the rest of the tank. If I put it too far back, it casts a shadow in the front of the tank, and vice versa. So I think having the two fixtures is the way we're going to have to go. I suppose what I could do would be to put another fixture in the back, similar to what we have on the Black Ghost the Gudgeon Tank. You know, put one of those little 10-watt tubes on there, and then I can use the rearward fixture back here and put that on Butterbean's tank. I have actually, between scenes here, I've taken one of these fixtures and put it on Butterbean's tank. And here, we'll have a little brief distraction. We'll come over here. Butterbean's tank at the moment has two of those 3-foot fixtures that has a 2-foot fluorescent tube in it. And it does not create a whole lot of light in the tank, and it creates it all sort of right there in the middle. If you look at the way I've got these fixtures set on the tank, you can see they're mostly towards the back anyway. The front panel here that opens doesn't have any light on it at all. So these two side by side are not really spreading the light out very far at all. And if I put one of those shop lights right here, it actually lights this tank up very well. And it's brighter than that, but not overwhelmingly brighter than that, and Butterbean didn't seem too distressed about it. So that's going to be my next project, is I'm either going to buy another one of those fixtures for this tank, or, as I was saying, I may simply put one of Butterbean's old fixtures over here, and then replace one of the, you know, put a 10-watt LED like I have in my other tank, or something. I don't know, but that's going to be my next big change that I make, is going to be to put the same LED fixture here on Butterbean's tank. So we went from 156 watts down to, this is 60 watts. So that's two 30-watt LED fixtures, and those are integrated LEDs. You can't replace those tubes or take them out or anything else. The fixtures don't have switches. They're simply, you plug them in and they come on. And so what I wound up doing was I plugged them into the main switch that I have. Most of the tanks on this side of the room are plugged into one switched outlet, and this tank was not. I always had to light this tank separately, and so now this is switched in with that, so when the lights come on, it'll just come on, and when the lights go off, it'll simply go off. And one thing I did want to point out while I'm thinking about it, before I forget, when I was installing these and putting them on, I remembered, let's see if we can even see it. Can you see that crack in the glass right there, right where my thumb is? It runs all the way down the length. So this hood is actually two separate pieces. I can pull all of this out and leave this back strip of glass on there because that broke. And you know why that broke? That broke because these fixtures were so hot with those twin high output T5 tubes, generated so much heat that that glass actually suffered thermal shock and cracked. So that gives you an idea of energy losses and the waste that you can get from those high output lights versus these LEDs, because I guarantee you, while these LEDs might, yeah, I can feel a little bit of warmth, but it's like a nice, pleasant, comfortable warmth. It feels a bit. It's actually not quite as warm as my little hand warmer that I carry around in my pocket on cold days. So that's how cool these fixtures are. And again, we're only operating on 60 watts now, and yet look at that tank and look how brightly and beautifully lit that is. So there's my before and after. We're moving on, making progress, where you've got just about every tank in this room switched over to LEDs now. Butterbean's tank will be the last one to go. And my little snail tank, I believe, has a little fluorescent tube bulb screwed into the little tiny fixture in that. It's one of those little mini bow 5-gallon tanks. So I'm pretty sure I don't have an LED in this fixture here. Nope. But it is fluorescent at least. So if I wanted, I could screw a little LED replacement into that. So maybe someday we'll make it official and every single tank will be fully lit by LEDs in this room. So there you go, everybody. There's your last look at my Purple Spotted Gudgeon Tank. That is a mere 20 watts of lighting. And that is a whopping 60 watts of lighting. So on a final note, final note, I'll say, remember, they're claiming that's 4,000K. Look how soft that is. Look how much orange you can see in there. Look how many reds you can see in there. So that's supposed to be 4,000K. And that's supposed to be 5,000K. So that seems like a lot of jump. Either this seems a little too bright to be 5,000K, or I should say too cool to be 5,000K. I don't think so. I think that does look like 5,000K. I'm very comfortable calling that 5,000K. I don't question that at all. What I do question is calling that 4,000K. That looks closer to 3,500, maybe even 3,000K to me. That's a very, very soft light. But I like it. Like I say, it's a little softer than I was expecting, but I do like it. I will also add on another little note, now that I'm thinking about it, is because the light is so soft, I'm afraid we might not get to see the spectacular colors on my neon rainbow fish. Remember, you can only see that bright blue color if you're shining bright blue light on them to reflect off of them in the first place. So if this fixture doesn't provide a lot of blue light, we're not going to get a lot of blue light reflected back. And those other fixtures that were on here with the 6500K tubes put a lot of blue light into the tank, and so did the weird little Color Max tube I had in there that puts out an odd spectrum that's supposed to highlight all of those reds and blues that normal tubes do not. So the color rendering in this tank is going to be very different than it was before. So time will tell once those fish become a little less skittish and get out and about a little more and their color comes back a little bit. We're going to see whether or not this softer lighting will still highlight all those beautiful vibrant blues that we've got in those fish. So there you go. I'm going to get on with my day, see what else happens. So thanks for watching this one. Don't forget, this one here is my Black Ghost Knife Fish Tank, despite the fact that we never see it. It really is still in there. I can see its little tail sticking out right now. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.